The start of the 50th Formula One World Championship Grand Prix season at Melbourne, Australia. And on the grid, a traditional front row, Mika Häkkinen, defending Drivers' Champion, just ahead of his teammate David Coulthard. An all McLaren front row, and they'd achieved that 9 times the previous season. On the second row of the grid, Michael Schumacher, second in the World Championship for Ferrari in '98, but forced to start from the rear of the grid after problems on the parade lap. Johnny Herbert smoking Stewart, and his first race of the season over before it started. Rubens Barrichello also in trouble. His Stewart pushed into the pit lane, and Johnny Herbert, the unlucky man, no spare car for him. Barrichello able to start from the pit lane, but once the race was underway, Jean Alesi in the Sauber stranded on the grid, and another man whose first race of 1999 was over before it even really started. The two McLarens into an early lead, Häkkinen ahead of Coulthard. Further back, a tangle in the pack, and Damon Hill's 100th Grand Prix ended before the end of the first lap. So the McLarens first and second, ahead of Eddie Irvine, flying the Ferrari banner, and 5.4 seconds already covering the top 6 after lap 1. Michael Schumacher busily working his way through the field, but David Coulthard, the first of the front runners to retire. Coulthard out at Melbourne. Another former world champion, Jacques Villeneuve, he was out after a big spin and doing brilliantly well to hold his car and prevent it careering hard into the walls. That brought out the safety car for the first time. Häkkinen leading from Irvine, with Heinz-Harald Frentzen in third place. When the safety car pulled off, Häkkinen and Irvine were wheel to wheel going down to the start-finish line. Irvine holding back just long enough, and then taking the lead for the first time as Häkkinen fell back. So it was Häkkinen dropping down the field and into the pits. McLaren sent him out again, but by now he was out of contention. Zanardi in trouble. The man who'd come back into Formula One from racing in America, making his debut for Williams, and out in the very first race. Again the safety car, and another McLaren retirement. Their interest in the Melbourne Grand Prix gone when Häkkinen retired and joined Coulthard on the sidelines. Irvine followed by Frentzen, with Ralf Schumacher in third place, and Michael Schumacher having worked his way right the way through the field, holding down fourth. But Schumacher in trouble again. His right rear starting to shred, and he dropped back down the field. And it was Irvine who took his first Grand Prix win.
Yeah, it's fantastic to do it with Ferrari, is amazing.
On to the second race of the 1999 season, the Brazilian Grand Prix at Interlagos. And after their double blank at Melbourne, it was McLaren 1-2 on the front row of the grid once again. But at the start of the race, the gremlin struck. David Coulthard left on the grid, and the two Ferraris, Irvine and Michael Schumacher, doing well to get past the stationary McLaren. Coulthard pushed away for attention, which left Häkkinen leading from Rubens Barrichello in the Stewart, Michael Schumacher in third place. Coulthard came out of the pits and looked likely to ride shotgun for his teammate who was leading the race at this stage. But strangely, Häkkinen slowed, was overtaken by Barrichello. Coulthard pulled one lap back for himself, and the two Ferraris followed. Damon Hill, an early pit stop for him. 1999 season did not start well for the former champion, or for Johnny Herbert. Barrichello was leading. David Coulthard out of the race with those mechanical problems. 3 British drivers out in quick succession. Rubens Barrichello into the pits at Stewart. Jean Alesi out of the race with Sauber. And Stefan Sarrazin, standing in for the injured Luca Badoa, found things very difficult on his debut. Rubens Barrichello forced his way back into the race with this overtaking manoeuvre on Eddie Irvine. Michael Schumacher, who'd gone into the lead when the steward pitted, he caught into the pits himself. Ferrari seeing their chances of 2 wins in a row looming large. But by now, Häkkinen's problems had resolved themselves, and he was back in front. Fisichella wasn't happy with the way things were going. So it was Häkkinen from Michael Schumacher, with Rubens Barrichello in 3rd place, the second Ferrari of Eddie Irvine 4th. Heinz-Harald Frentzen and Ralf Schumacher made it 3 Germans in the top 6. Eddie Irvine's pit stop at Ferrari. Häkkinen leading as he came in for his 2nd stop. If Irvine finished in the points, then the Ferrari man would still retain the lead no matter what position Häkkinen could accomplish. Barrichello in trouble. Häkkinen set the fastest lap, eclipsing his time of the previous year. He came through to take a well-deserved victory. Häkkinen's 1st of the season and his 10th in Formula 1. Michael Schumacher opened his account for 99. Heinz-Harald Frentzen just made it home in 3rd. Mika Häkkinen, though, the winner, with some mystery about slowing down early in the race.
So I had a gearbox problem. Obviously, I thought the game is over, and the team obviously told me to continue, and suddenly gears came back.
But Eddie Irvine still leading the championship after his 5th place in Brazil. Back across the Atlantic for the first European race of the season, the San Marino Grand Prix at Imola. Michael Schumacher equalled his best qualifying of the season. But ahead of the Ferrari, 2 McLarens once again for the 3rd time in 1999. David Coulthard and Mika Häkkinen. Häkkinen with the 13th pole position of his career and his 3rd of 1999. From the start, the 2 McLarens away well, pursued by the 2 Ferraris, and the 2 Jordans making an excellent start as well. But it was Häkkinen who was immediately in control of the race. For Jacques Villeneuve, another disappointment in the BAR. Häkkinen stormed away from everybody in the field, including his teammate David Coulthard. Michael Schumacher and Eddie Irvine grimly holding on to 3rd and 4th. Rubens Barrichello and Heinz-Harald Frentzen making up the top 6 at the end of the 1st lap. Coulthard and Häkkinen, the quickest cars in the whole race. Nothing, it seemed, could possibly stop Häkkinen. And then a rare mistake by the world champion. Crucial pit stop for Ferrari. Michael Schumacher in 2nd place, chasing after Coulthard. And Ferrari did their job well. Coulthard stop. McLaren needing to match that 6.9 by Ferrari. But they couldn't quite manage it. Coulthard now in 2nd place and trying too hard to get back on terms. Michael Schumacher's 2nd stop. And again, slick work by Ferrari had him underway. Michael Schumacher in and out without losing the lead, and it seemed that David Coulthard's chance of winning had gone. Michael Schumacher, the first Ferrari driver to win at Imola since Patrick Tambay in 1983.
There was no no big risk to go for a two-stopper and at least try and see what happens, and we did it.
And Michael Schumacher was now the championship leader. On to Monaco, and the most prestigious race in the championship. For David Coulthard, his worst qualifying of the season. Ahead of him, Michael Schumacher, for the first time on the front row in 1999. Mika Häkkinen, though, picked up the 14th pole position of his career and his 4th of the season. It was becoming a monopoly. But at the start, Häkkinen was not away well. And Michael Schumacher was round the outside heading into Sainte-Devote. Michael Schumacher taking over the lead at the very first corner and heading away up the hill into Casino Square. Schumacher leading, Häkkinen in second place, Irvine in the second Ferrari in third spot, being chased by David Coulthard. And Schumacher already showing mastery around the streets of Monte Carlo. Coulthard suffering with an oil leak. Johnny Herbert suffering with a broken rear suspension. What a dreadful start to the season for Herbert. David Coulthard went out after 36 laps. Michael Schumacher, mightily impressive in the early stages of the race, into the pits for his first stop. And again, the crew performing great work. Häkkinen hassled all the way by Irvine. Häkkinen into the pits at McLaren for his stop. Cool and assured by McLaren, but Häkkinen had dropped to third. Irvine came in for his pit stop. Had he built up enough time on Mika Häkkinen to be able to retain second place? Again, the pit crew did their work. And despite the slow exit at Monte Carlo, the answer for Irvine was an emphatic yes. He'd done enough to stay second. It was now a long, forlorn chase for Häkkinen. Barrichello found his Stewart doing all the things he didn't want it to do down by the swimming pool. Another Stewart with a broken rear suspension. Glory then for Ferrari. Michael Schumacher heading towards the checkered flag and his first win of 1999, his 35th in all. More importantly, it was a Ferrari 1-2. Eddie Irvine in second place.
I was myself a bit surprised. I got very good off the line, but then I saw Mika having wheel spin initially and struggling a bit.
16 victories for Ferrari for Michael Schumacher, the most successful Ferrari driver ever. After the Ferrari 1-2 at Monaco, a huge crowd at Barcelona. And Eddie Irvine didn't disappoint. Second place on the grid, his best qualifying of the season. He missed out on pole by 0.131 of a second. Pole position, of course, to Mika Häkkinen, his 5th of the season. Häkkinen had won here in 1998 and desperately wanted to repeat that performance to keep track of Michael Schumacher and Eddie Irvine in the championship race. From the start, Häkkinen charged down to the first corner. Coulthard did a brilliant job coming up from third on the grid and holding back the two Ferraris. But then Villeneuve appeared in the picture and slotted in just behind David Coulthard and ahead of Michael Schumacher and Irvine. Häkkinen's first pit stop. Then Michael Schumacher was in. The front runners, at least it seemed, had opted for 2 stops each. Villeneuve into the pits at BAR as Michael Schumacher came out to find himself in third place behind Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Jordan. Problems for Villeneuve. Rigorous attention needed to the rear wing. And the stop dragged on. Häkkinen holding down first place and looking very capable of running all the way to the finish. Solid backup role for David Coulthard. Coulthard holding down third place, just ahead of Eddie Irvine in the Ferrari fourth, with Michael Schumacher in second place, but Michael Schumacher requiring one more stop before the end of the race. So it was Mika Häkkinen that came home first. Häkkinen with the 11th win of his Formula One career and his second of 1999.
I guess it's never easy. Sometimes it does look like it is easy, but you need an enormous concentration all the way through the race.
Mika Häkkinen up to second in the Drivers' Championship, 6 points behind Michael Schumacher. Häkkinen sandwiched by the two Ferrari men, with Heinz-Harald Frentzen ahead of David Coulthard for fourth and Ralf Schumacher in sixth place. In the constructors, Ferrari were leading the way. Jordan up to third place behind McLaren. Williams, Benetton and Stewart all in single figures. Back across the Atlantic for the only Grand Prix in North America, the Canadian Grand Prix at Montreal. Eddie Irvine second in the championship, but third on the grid in Canada. And left with a lot to do. Ahead of him on the front row, Mika Häkkinen, the first time that he'd missed pole in 1999. He didn't miss out by much, just 0.029 of a second, but he did miss out to Michael Schumacher. Michael Schumacher with the 21st pole of his career. The man who'd won here in 1994, 97 and 98. And he made a great start in 99. Cutting across in front of Häkkinen and making sure that he was in second place down to that first corner. Behind, a real logjam. Barrichello, Alesi and Trulli all caught up in it. It brought out the safety car. Michael Schumacher in the position that he needed to be at the start of this race. Barrichello in trouble in the pits. Also in trouble on the restart, Damon Hill, clattering the wall, and another retirement for him. Out went Rubens Barrichello. Michael Schumacher, troubled by back markers, began to lose time. Häkkinen was closing on him. Lap 29, Schumacher came down the Virage du Casino, and a huge impact with the wall spelt the end of his race. Michael Schumacher out at the same corner that had caught out Damon Hill. Mika Häkkinen in the lead. Strangely enough, a third world champion came to grief at that same corner, this time Jacques Villeneuve. Irvine and Coulthard squabbling over second place and tangling. Somehow, both of them managed to get going, but they've been substantially delayed. Irvine fighting back, overtaking Johnny Herbert. Both of them taking the scenic route. Frentzen now up into second place. Häkkinen in first place had it all his own way. But that second place for Frentzen was not secure, and he too ended up against the barriers. Frentzen, like the other three who'd crashed heavily, said that he was okay. Pride was hurt though, and it was the safety car that saw the rest of the field home. For the first time in Formula One history, a race was won with the safety car out. But the 10 points still counted just the same for Mika Häkkinen.
It was excellent race.
Mika Häkkinen, now the championship leader by 4 points from Michael Schumacher, with Irvine in third place. Rain disrupted qualifying for the French Grand Prix at Magny-Cours, and there was an unsettled forecast for the race. Rubens Barrichello took the second pole position of his career, but the first for Stewart. Jean Alesi joined him on the front row, and Olivier Panis completed an unlikely top trio. David Coulthard was fourth on the grid, Mika Häkkinen 14th, Michael Schumacher as high as 6th. The race started, Barrichello kept his pole position. Behind him, Alesi, then Coulthard, with Olivier Panis slipping back down the order. Coulthard was the man who was doing all the pressing. Frentzen had made it up to 4th. Coulthard took second place from Jean Alesi with a daring manoeuvre. Häkkinen up from 14th place and down the inside of Michael Schumacher. But Schumacher wouldn't let him go. Here, two world champions wheel to wheel. Coulthard retired on lap 9. Häkkinen was up into the top 4. And pressing Frentzen for 3rd place. Once again down the inside. Although Häkkinen running wide allowed Frentzen the chance to get back briefly. Häkkinen driving superbly, shut out Alesi at the Adelaide hairpin. Häkkinen now up to 2nd behind Barrichello as the rain began to fall. Häkkinen and Alesi into the pits together. So too Michael Schumacher wets the order of the day. Unlucky Jean Alesi, just as a safety car was about to come out, he spins his Sauber into retirement. The rain that had been forecast arrived with a vengeance. Barrichello leading, Häkkinen in 2nd place, Frentzen 3rd, Michael Schumacher 4th. When the lights went green again, Häkkinen was immediately on the tail of Barrichello. Barrichello, with a clear track in front of him, had the advantage, and all the spray was issuing into the visor of the defending world champion. Häkkinen tried at the hairpin again, but conditions this time were much more treacherous. Now it was Michael Schumacher after Rubens Barrichello. Schumacher held the inside line. Michael Schumacher's pit stop for another set of wet tyres. Mika Häkkinen's second fight back of the race almost complete as he went past Barrichello, up from 8th to 2nd. Heinz-Harald Frentzen now in the lead, with those in front of him having to stop in the pits. Häkkinen out, chasing after Frentzen, but with too little time left to get on parity. A great win for Jordan.
We have good radio communications, and the communication worked out perfectly.
And nobody celebrates victory like the team from Silverstone. So home ground for Jordan next time out at the British Grand Prix. But it was Mika Häkkinen, the championship leader, who snatched pole for the 6th time in 1999. Häkkinen into the lead at the start, and more good news for McLaren. David Coulthard moved up to 2nd place. But with two cars stalled on the grid, race officials decided that there had to be a restart. Michael Schumacher wasn't to know that as he headed down Hangar Straight, locked his brakes and careered straight on into the tyre barrier. Immense concern for the double world champion. Michael Schumacher was stretchered away to be airlifted to hospital with suspected broken legs. Replay of the incident came down the inside of Eddie Irvine. The gravel trap not doing its job, and a high impact into the tyre barriers. At the restart, Mika Häkkinen with the advantage, with a gap alongside him on the front row. This time, Irvine got himself sandwiched between the two McLarens. Coulthard and Irvine doing battle at the first corner. At Irvine's pit stop, he just overshot his marks, and the subsequent delay allowed David Coulthard to take second place from him. Coulthard sweeping across his bows as Irvine exited the pits. But then, tragedy for Häkkinen. Parting company with his left rear. And the race leader and championship leader is suddenly vulnerable. Häkkinen went out to try again, but left the first place battle to Coulthard and Irvine. Ralf Schumacher was on course for his best finish since Melbourne, and Damon Hill in the Jordan was up to 5th. Out though went Mika Häkkinen, his McLaren becoming undrivable. Coulthard pressed on, holding down first place. Irvine kept up the pressure. But this was going to be David Coulthard's race, watched by his girlfriend Heidi. In front of his home fans, David Coulthard collected the 10 points. Irvine picked up 6.
It's fantastic, and it's completely down to my mechanics today, who both times managed to get me out in front of Eddie.
A result which meant there were just 2 points between Ferrari and McLaren in the Constructors' Championship. With Michael Schumacher ruled out for up to 8 weeks with his leg injuries, it was time for Mika Häkkinen to assert his authority. His 7th pole position came at Austria. Alongside him on the front row, David Coulthard. And it was the two McLarens, shadowed by the Ferrari of Eddie Irvine, that were 1, 2 and 3 going down to the first corner. Then trouble for McLaren. Coulthard thought he'd got the inside line. Häkkinen decided that he wanted it. And it was Häkkinen that lost out. Spinning away into the gravel trap, and when he got restarted, he was last of 22. So Coulthard in front, followed by Rubens Barrichello, who'd gone past Irvine during that incident, and Frentzen Mika Salo standing in for the injured Schumacher. Häkkinen began yet another fight back. In 6 laps, he'd made up 9 places. And his was the fastest car in the race. Watched by Mercedes chief Norbert Haug, he made up 9 places in 6 laps. Then he set about Heinz-Harald Frentzen for 4th. For the second time in 3 races, another dramatic fight back by Mika Häkkinen. But it was Irvine leading. Irvine needing the win to put himself back in the championship picture. Crucial pit stop by Ferrari. Irvine headed down the pit lane at the A1 ring to be greeted by his new teammate Mika Salo. Salo running in the midfield, but here able to perform a vital role, holding up any would-be McLaren attackers for as long as he could. Häkkinen swept past Barrichello and picked up 3rd place. 19 places made up by Häkkinen in the race. But Coulthard could do nothing about Irvine. It remained close right to the checkered flag, but Irvine won it, his 2nd victory of the season, to move him 2nd in the championship, just 2 points behind the Finn Mika Häkkinen.
I was hoping it wasn't going to break down, because at that stage I was going very slowly, and I was behind Barrichello, and the Italian press, if I had broken down then, would have murdered me.
So Irvine starting the second half of the season with a vital win. On to Hockenheim, and Ferrari still without Michael Schumacher. Mika Häkkinen took the 18th pole position of his career and the 100th for McLaren in their history. Alongside him on the front row, Heinz-Harald Frentzen. On the front row, on home ground, but nothing he could do about Häkkinen at the start. The Finn away to a flyer. In the middle of the pack, a real tangle involving Villeneuve, Genet and Diniz. Häkkinen leading, Salo in second place, Coulthard third. Irvine, who'd started in fifth place, was now running sixth. Frentzen holding down fourth, and Barrichello ahead of the championship leader. Coulthard tried an over-adventurous move on Salo and lost part of his front wing as a result. Consternation in the McLaren pit was obvious. Coulthard into the pits for a new front nose. Once again, the McLaren jinx seemed to be striking. Out on the track, a midfield battle. Wirtz overtaking the Stewart of Herbert. Coulthard squeezed past Panis. But he did it by taking a shortcut at the chicane. Yet another delay due for the McLaren. Up front, Salo had let Irvine through for first place. Coulthard's penalty was confirmed. With 20 laps to go, a Ferrari 1-2 was already looking likely. But then Häkkinen made his move on Frentzen for third place. Coming into the stadium section, it all went wrong for Häkkinen. Plunged into the tyre trap, his wife Erja obviously concerned. But Häkkinen signalled he was okay. Now there was really nothing to stop the two Ferraris. Irvine first, Salo second. Irvine's second successive win and the championship lead. 9 points finishes for him in 10 Grand Prix, and the second Ferrari 1-2 of the season. Irvine 8 points ahead of Häkkinen. Frentzen up to third ahead of Michael Schumacher. David Coulthard just ahead of Ralf Schumacher for fifth. And Ferrari with a 16-point lead in the Constructors' Championship.
I got a good start, and then DC made a bad one, so I was sort of boxed in again. And then I took the wrong side of Heinz going down the straight, so Rubens got me. It was once that happened, I thought, right, I just got to let the race come to me.
6 rounds to go of the Formula One World Championship, and at Hungary, Mika Häkkinen with the 9th pole of the season and the 19th of his career. Alongside him on the front row, the championship leader, Eddie Irvine. Häkkinen stormed into the lead from the start. Giancarlo Fisichella pressurised Irvine all the way down to the first corner. Häkkinen with a brilliant start that led him away from the rest of the field at a rate of knots. Already with a near 8.5 second lead over Irvine, Häkkinen looked the class act in the field. First pit stop for the Finn. And for once, everything seemed to be running smoothly for McLaren and Häkkinen. At his first stop, he was in and out without losing the lead. Meanwhile, Irvine and Coulthard were battling hard over second place. Coulthard reducing the gap to just half a second. They both came in for their second stops at exactly the same moment. A straight battle for position between the two pit crews. And it was Ferrari that managed to keep their man ahead. Irvine second, Coulthard third. Häkkinen still out in front and seemingly unassailable. Still this battle continued, but just when Irvine seemed to have got a comfortable lead, inexplicably, he disappeared off the track and lost second place. Coulthard up to second and ramming his advantage home with the fastest lap of the race. Häkkinen took the checkered flag and 10 points. His 4th win of the season, the 13th of his 123 race career. With David Coulthard making it a McLaren 1-2, there was plenty for the thousands of Finnish fans to celebrate in Hungary.
It is fabulous, and the atmosphere is great, and I'm certainly knowing Finnish people. They will have a great evening tonight, and they have a good reason to celebrate and be proud of Finland and proud of the McLaren.
McLaren were trailing Ferrari by 4 points in the Constructors' Championship prior to Spa. Irvine led Häkkinen by 2 points in the Drivers' Championship. It was Häkkinen's pole. David Coulthard made it an all-McLaren front row. Almost a false start by Häkkinen. Coulthard took full advantage. The briefest of touches between the two McLarens at the first corner. Coulthard led going up to Eau Rouge, followed by Häkkinen, Heinz-Harald Frentzen and Irvine. After 5 laps of this 44-lap race, Coulthard was still out in front. Frentzen still holding down 3rd place ahead of Irvine, and Ralf Schumacher up to 5th ahead of Alex Zanardi in the Williams. Mika Salo took over 5th place from Ralf Schumacher. This the cause of some concern to Williams, who felt that the Ferrari held up Ralf Schumacher at this stage of the race. Irvine's first pit stop. As Irvine came out of the pits, his teammate Salo came round on the outside. Almost a collision of McLaren proportions. Coulthard still leading, Häkkinen in 2nd place. Irvine took over from Salo in 4th. There was little they could do about the two McLarens. Coulthard leading and heading for the 2nd win of 1999. It wasn't a result which was in Häkkinen's game plan, but 2nd place did give him the lead in the championship once more. The 3rd McLaren 1-2 of 1999. Satisfaction for Coulthard.
Before the actual red lights went out, Mika moved, and I almost moved with him as a reaction. And then when the lights went out properly, he made a not very good start. I made a better start, and naturally came over to defend what I could take on the line. And when I realised it was still going to be close, I opened out a little bit, and then there was a little bit of contact, but I don't think there was any damage done.
Ferrari's turn to be back on home ground at the 70th Italian Grand Prix at Monza. but Mika Häkkinen again picked up pole position, his 6th in succession. Alongside him on the front row, Heinz-Harald Frentzen. From the start, Mika Häkkinen led away from the lights. Alex Zanardi, who'd started from the second row, moved up to take 2nd place in the race. Behind them, utter confusion. But amazingly, all 22 cars survived this first lap. Häkkinen in 1st place, Zanardi under pressure from Frentzen. Frentzen coming through to retake 2nd. Salo, the lead Ferrari. Irvine was back in 8th place. Ralf Schumacher coming through with David Coulthard past Salo. An all-action first lap, but Häkkinen significantly still in the lead. Häkkinen chased by Frentzen. Ralf Schumacher had been let through by Alex Zanardi. And still no sign of Irvine in the top 6. So major encouragement for Häkkinen, and he seemed determined to press his advantage home until driver error forced him off the circuit. The defending world champion, usually so cool and unflappable, was absolutely distraught. The Ferrari fans revelled in it. An unlikely mistake by a master driver. All Häkkinen wanted to do was stay out of sight. Frentzen took over the lead. And continued untroubled to record his 2nd win of the season. Jordan naturally delighted. Frentzen up to 3rd in the championship, 10 points behind Irvine and Häkkinen.
I saw him there after the first, well, in the first chicane, rolling off, spinning off, and I said, I can't believe it.
With 3 Grand Prix to go, the Formula One World Championship season, Heinz-Harald Frentzen was very much the man of the moment, taking his 2nd pole position of the season at Nürburgring. Alongside him on the front row, David Coulthard. Mika Häkkinen was on row 2. A false start by half a dozen drivers called them all back into position to have a go for a 2nd time. This time, it was clean. Häkkinen down towards the first corner, was chasing hard after Frentzen. Coulthard with him. The 2 McLarens slotted in 2nd and 3rd. But then at the back, Deniz suddenly spotted upside down. Major confusion and some distress. Deniz led away to be airlifted to hospital. In the middle of this group, Hill had slowed rapidly. Wirtz and Deniz had collided behind Hill, and Deniz had been catapulted onto the infield. A catastrophic-looking incident, but Deniz amazingly escaped with only bruising. When the safety car pulled off, Frentzen again tried to resume control of the race. The major challenge was going to come from the 2 McLarens. But also in a good position, Ralf Schumacher. Doing well for Williams in a car which for most of the season had been uncompetitive. Schumacher alongside Coulthard. And this, as much as anything, signified the improvement in the Williams towards the end of the year. On lap 32, Frentzen first and Coulthard second came into the pits together. Straight battle between the pit crews for points and position. And Jordan just kept their man ahead. But their pleasure was short-lived. Frentzen retired from first position just after the pit stop. Coulthard led from Ralf Schumacher until he went off. First position becoming jinxed in this race. Next to go, Fisichella, who'd taken over the lead briefly, only to end his race just over the gravel trap. Ralf Schumacher was in first place then, but was forced into the pits with a rear tyre failure. And Johnny Herbert took up the running in the Stewart. Luca Badoer went out, on the verge of earning his first ever points in Formula One. Johnny Herbert came through to take first place. Stewart with a win in their last season before they were taken over officially by Jaguar.
I had a nice advantage of Jarno, so I was then able to try and look after everything as much as I possibly could, and hopefully, I could get to the end.
Next to the Far East, and a first visit to Malaysia and the new Sepang circuit. Michael Schumacher back after a 6-race absence to take his 22nd pole position. Eddie Irvine alongside him on the front row. Ferrari holding the whip hand at the start. And little that McLaren could do about it in the early stages. Damon Hill went out just 2 races from final retirement. Collected in the middle of a pack, all of them jostling for position, and Hill the man who lost out. Michael Schumacher stood aside and let Eddie Irvine through. The McLarens were still blocked out. Michael Schumacher doing a good job of holding up the rest of the field and allowing Irvine to escape. But then a rare mistake by Michael Schumacher, running too wide and allowing Coulthard through. Saw Coulthard up to second, and Häkkinen pressing Schumacher from fourth. Irvine on 3 consecutive laps, quicker all round than Häkkinen. Villeneuve, scenic excursion for him. An eventful season, but no points for the BAR man. Irvine's second scheduled stop brought him out in 3rd place. Michael Schumacher leading, Häkkinen still second. Häkkinen in for his 2nd stop. This dropped him down to 3rd, leaving Michael Schumacher and Eddie Irvine to settle between themselves who was going to win the race in Malaysia. And with Irvine with the best chance of the championship, Michael Schumacher stood aside. Another Ferrari 1-2.
This guy's depressing. Not only is he the best number 1, he's also the best number 2.
Afterwards, Ferrari disqualified, then sensationally reinstated on appeal. In Japan, Eddie Irvine could only qualify 5th on the grid. His championship chances hanging by a thread. Mika Häkkinen looked as confident as he'd been for months. Second on the grid, but ahead of him, Michael Schumacher, his 2nd pole in succession since coming back from injury. At the start, Michael Schumacher cared too much about what Häkkinen was doing. Häkkinen played his own game and shot into an early lead. David Coulthard had gone backwards from 3rd position. Irvine, Frentzen and Panis had all moved up. Panis it was in 3rd place, ahead of Irvine. Häkkinen had done all the hard work at the start and now had another 52 laps to stay in front to be certain of the title. Irvine's pit stop had a chance of staying third, but went down to fourth as Coulthard swept past. But Coulthard was soon in trouble, clipping off his front nose and lucky to stay in the race. He made it into the pits, but was now way down the order. Though he could still play a part in the race, Michael Schumacher was convinced he was held up by Coulthard. But in the end, an overwhelming victory for Mika Häkkinen. His 14th of his career and his second title. Joining illustrious company. Only Ascari, Fangio, Brabham, Prost, Senna and Michael Schumacher have in the past won back-to-back Formula One World Championship titles. For Ferrari, some consolation in that they won the Constructors' Championship by the narrow margin of just 4 points from McLaren. Jordan, a very solid third. The Drivers' Championship clinched by just 2 points. Mika Häkkinen for McLaren ahead of Eddie Irvine of Ferrari. And Ron Dennis ahead of McLaren, a delighted man.
And deciding a championship in the last Grand Prix, it's nerve-wracking, and I really don't recommend it to anybody that experience it.
Well, we won the Constructors' Championship, you know, which is important.
That was the 50th year of Formula One Grand Prix. Are you ready for 51?